Hi, and welcome to Biteable Live. My name is Jared Doyle, and today I'm joined by Murray Ryan. Murray is the CEO and founder of the Social Media Marketing Institute, award winner, public speaker, and all-round guru. Thank you so much for joining us today, Murray.
Thanks so much for having me, Jared.
As our first external guest, I'd just like to say thank you for being the brave one who's jumped in and taken the plunge.
My pleasure. Always happy to join you.
So you've probably seen from other shows, I always manage to make one mistake. So I'm sure I'll do something early for you and then everything will be fine after that.
Well, that's the fun of Facebook Live. It's about those unpredictable things that happen.
Exactly. So to everyone who's tuned in, as I always say, it's Facebook Live, and live means that you get to ask us questions. Live means that you get to participate. And today's show is all around Murray and myself making our social media marketing predictions into next year, so 2019. Yes, we're thinking about that already. So if you have predictions, if you've got things that you think are going to be hot, tools, tips, tricks, anything you think is going to be a big feature next year in social media, particularly on Facebook, drop it in the comments. We'll love to take your topic and chat about it today. If you're from anywhere around the world, let us know what country you're from, what city you're calling in or dialing in or viewing from. And if nothing else, just a little like makes us feel better. So enough of the sort of housekeeping things. We are going to start making some predictions. But before we do that, Murray, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got into social media marketing in the first place?
Absolutely. My background is actually in the fitness industry. And probably about 12 years ago, I was getting into the industry. I was looking at running women's boot camps, and I wanted to look at a way that I could build my brand and not spend a lot of money. And, traditional media, traditional marketing was, all the rage back then, doing things like putting flyers in letterboxes, which cost a lot of money to do a bit of hit and miss marketing. And I just wanted to look at other ways that I could engage with my audience in a really authentic way. And so Facebook was, really coming into the forefront then. And so I used that as a way to make sure that I could communicate with my ideal client. So I guess one of the first things was obviously understanding who that was, because by having really good understanding of my demographics, then I could make sure I understood the pain points that my audience had, but also that when I did any type of advertising, that I was able to make sure I really targeted that demographic and had really pinpoint accuracy when it came to that. And by using social media, and particularly Facebook advertising, I was able to grow my business from my location where I was based on the Gold Coast, and then grow that to Darwin, which I've never been to Darwin. I still haven't been to Darwin.
No, I've never been there either.
But was able to it actually became the most successful part of my business in Darwin. And then also in Perth. So using the power of social media, I was also able to reach people through places like YouTube, where I've had videos that I'm in reach up to 667,000 people watching me exercise.
The numbers are crazy, aren't they? Like, you can't even imagine going back and delivering 660,000 brochures. It wouldn't happen.
I know. And the thing about me too with the social media side of things is that everything I've done, I've invested my own time, energy, and money to find out whether it works. Because, you can learn about these things, but until you actually do the doing, I find that, you're never going to truly understand how you can use it. So that's, I guess, a bit of background. I also won the 2010 Australian Exercise Professional of the Year award. And as I've transitioned into the social media space, that's why I was so passionate about establishing the Social Media Marketing Awards, because I had seen how winning an award had made such a difference to my career and opportunities for me. And that also led to getting into mainstream media. So I was very passionate about helping social media marketers to have the same opportunities that I had, but in the social media space.
Well, fantastic. Well, that's what the next 25 minutes will be, I guess, for us, is an attempt to get that intelligence, to get that experience, and we'll try to impart that upon everybody who is viewing now, or maybe watches this, as most people do, after the actual show has gone live. So there's a bunch of things we could talk about next year, and I know when we were planning the show, the thing that jumped up to us and we started talking about was Facebook Portal, which is interesting because that's kind of like Facebook predicting where they think next year is going to go. So what are your thoughts on Facebook Portal? And maybe actually, before we get into that, so if you haven't seen Facebook Portal, I think it's just portal.facebook.com.
Yeah,
and it is we'll share the link in the chat for people. And it's like a tablet that sits on your kitchen bench and it can follow you around. So unlike, say, an Alexa or a Google Home, this is actually all about visual. So you can be chatting to someone and still cooking the dinner, like you probably do when you're using a mobile phone, but it's making it a very interactive experience, and it's all being built by Facebook. So this is obviously their bet, or one of their bets for next year. So I guess, Maria, I mean, what's your feeling on this? Does it sound like a good bet, a bad bet? Is it too early, too late? What do you think is going to happen next year?
Well, I think it's very interesting. I mean, when I think about how I try and use messaging particularly, especially video messaging and using Facebook Messenger, I've always traditionally either used the iPad or I've used my mobile phone. And there's been many a time where I've tried to prop it up on things so that I can do the cooking or do other things while I'm chatting away. So for me, the whole idea of it being able to follow me around as I do different things is quite appealing. Also,
I get the opposite reaction. I watched it following people, and to me, that just when things follow you, that's creepy. Like by definition, in my mind, I go, "That's a creepy thing. I don't want that." But that's the thing about trying to make predictions, isn't it? It's you're making a bet. You're making an educated bet or a guess to say that enough people are going to like this, it'll take off.
That is interesting too, in regards to, like you said, about it following you around. Because I speak and I get filmed as I speak, I'm used to a camera following me around. So that's why I guess for me, it appeals in that respect. But I can understand for some people that might be a little disconcerting to have it follow you around. But the thing that I liked is, if your family comes in and joins you in the conversation that you're having with somebody else, the screen will actually widen to allow that person to come in and join the conversation. And it becomes a lot more user-friendly. And I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah, I think those features will be the ones that will definitely stand the test of time. The idea that your phone or any device can look at a scenario and say, actually, I need to be widescreen, or now I can focus in. Sometimes it's the technology that gets baked into a product. That might continue and other aspects might disappear. We don't know where it's going to play out. From a marketing point of view, the moment when I watched the video that I thought they're pushing it was when they've got, and I encourage everyone to watch it, there's a little cap you can put on to hide the camera. And that to me is almost like an admission of almost guilt. It's a bit scary, right? It's like, oh, and if everything else fails, here, put this little hood over top of the camera so we can't see you. I'm not sure that is great marketing.
Well, I know that when they've done other interviews with Mark Zuckerberg, that they've actually seen him putting like even masking tape and things over the top of his camera. So to me, that does say that there has been, and obviously is, opportunity that people can obviously hack in, as we know, into your cameras. So I suppose they're trying to give little steps forward, baby steps, that if you put this hood over and you press this button, they can't hear you. They're encrypting the conversations. They're not keeping the conversations. They're not listening to your conversations, is what they're saying to us.
Even when you say it, you kind of go, oh, I don't know 100%.
Well, I'd have to, I guess, see it in action. I mean, it's got Alexa's built into it, so that you can actually, you talk to it. You say, "Hey, Portal," and it actually talks. You can talk to it and you can ask it to do things. And through the Alexa, it allows you to find out what the weather is or play music. So it does have a lot of good features to it. But like I said, it's just that privacy data thing that, because of, I guess, the Cambridge Analytica and these other issues with breaches, people are always going to be a bit nervous about allowing additional access to their personal space.
Yeah, I think as a marketer, two things jump out at me. One is I need to be aware of these things, because if it's not now, it will be the future. Mm-hmm. So you have to, and it becomes another platform. If it becomes another platform, I need to understand it. Yes. That's the first bit. And then the second part I look at and say, well, look, the data breaches and issues, they do exist, but honestly, I feel like next year that'll start to become a bit more normal, in so much as people will just go to that next level where their privacy just gets pushed away a little bit. And I think a lot of the tools that the data that us as marketers and social media marketers had up to last year, some of those will start to find their way back into our marketing suite in different shapes and forms, but I don't think it's gone forever. I think it's just taken a little bit of a backward step for a few months. So I feel like next year, some of the data that we used to have access to will find its way back, just in a different form.
And I think you made a good point before as well, where you said, instead of being scared of something, you need to educate yourself on it. And I think that's really important with anything. I mean, whether it's data breaches, whether it's to do with new products like Facebook Portal, the best thing that we can do, particularly as marketers, is to be able to make sure we understand it, because we then communicate that onwards to our clients, and we need to make sure we understand it so that we can have really good, robust conversations with our clients, because the thing that I find is that they're even more scared than we are. And so we want to make sure that we can, especially if they're really good tools, that we can help them to understand why they're good tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it just continues on the trend. This year, video's really taken off. And it's something like Portal by Facebook just suggests that video is only going to continue its rise in importance. Do you see this? Do you see 2019 being as big for video as 2018? Is it going to be faster, slower, or just more of the same?
Well, it is interesting because, all the statistics out there are saying how video, by 2020, 80% of content is going to be video. But for me, I look at that statistic and I say, well, that's all fine and well, but how are we going to consume that video, and what type of video content are we going to be providing? I saw a Facebook Live this week by Social Media Examiner, and they were explaining about why they're taking some of their long form video off their Facebook page. So they've had some shows like The Journey and other things where they've got long form video, and they were finding when they went into their analytics that they weren't getting the uptake that they thought that they would get. And so they've made a conscious decision, and they've been having to explain it this week because a lot of people, I guess, are really confused or are unsure as to why they're making that decision. But basically what they're doing is they've decided that they're going to go to short form video. So really short, sharp, anything sort of under 2 minutes, that's where their space is going to be. So my predictions are obviously things such as video. Yes, video is a lot more engaging with people. It's a better way for us to learn from somebody. It's a much better way to build relationships with somebody. And I think that we just have to decide how we're going to use it. So are we going to do it with lives? Are we going to do it with short video? Are we going to do it with long form video? And how do we put that into our social media strategy?
I wonder whether I feel, this is a me prediction, but I think you're right in the sense that long form video is going to become harder. And I think it comes down to the fact that we often have less time, or we're willing to give less of our time to watch a video. Because if you're sitting now watching us have this discussion, it's an all-encompassing thing. You've got a screen and you've got audio happening at the same time. So I feel like, although audio has been always considered to be like, a lesser medium, I guess, than video, I feel like for the longer form, audio will probably start to hold its own. So podcasts where you can go in depth and you can listen to a long podcast or an audio book. I know for myself, if it's more than half an hour, that's an audiobook or a podcast. I'll listen to it while I'm commuting or driving or walking in the morning. So, it'll be, I guess it's horses for courses. Remains to be seen. I guess if you're engaging enough with the video, you can keep people engaged for more than half an hour, then good on you. But I think you're right. I think it might tend to be a little bit shorter, but look, 0 to half an hour is a long window. So it's not really short.
Yes, true. And also it might be that, Facebook as such for video watching, it might be more of a shorter space for us to watch, where we might be more likely to watch a long form video maybe over on YouTube, where we expect to have that kind of interaction. So It doesn't mean that long form video doesn't work. We need to just understand how each platform, how our users on each platform are engaging. And it just means that it just shows we can't have one strategy that is encompassing all platforms. We need to make sure that our strategies encompass each platform individually.
Do you think, looking into next year, that live streaming might be the answer to that interaction you were just talking about? So live streaming gives us that ability to say, hey, and is the case now, if someone asks a question now, we can take that question, answer it live in the show. That's a totally different immersive experience than recording a half-hour, highly polished video show and then publishing it. So do you think live stream maybe is the answer, and that will be the area, like what we're doing now, that has the the great 2019.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think that that doing any type of live streaming, particularly Facebook Live, is really powerful, because it's not just a video where it's just a one-way communication tool. You know, when it's live streaming, we're able to do both ways. It's engaging. It's being able to have that conversation backwards and forwards. If people are able to ask questions, you know, that makes it really engaging, because, you know, I think it's about, the whole thing about marketing is about building relationships. And it's really hard to do that in a one-way flow of communication. So that's why I think live are really, really powerful. And the other thing too is that Facebook want to encourage the use of lives. I mean, 1 in 5 videos on Facebook now, according to Facebook statistics, is a live. Wow. And they're actually giving notifications when people are going live. So they're actually supporting that kind of communication, because they're really wanting to get back to community and building those relationships, because they know if you're engaged in a community perspective, that you're more likely to stick around and engage more content, which has more chance for them to be able to advertise and get more users on board, and, you know, get the money side of things sorted. So, yeah, I think it's where they're going to really focus.
That's a good tip. So that's a good tip. So the takeaway there, really, for me, for everyone listening, is think about making your content interactive and engaging, and maybe hold back a little more on that kind of the shout. You know, as marketers over the last 50, 60 years, it's always been about shouting, you know, buying more eyeballs, buying more ears, and shouting your message out. And now that, you know, the advice, and I think your advice is right if I paraphrase it correctly, is listen, you know, be engaged, you know, communicate back and forth. I'll look over at the comments and I'll make, here we go. So Joe just commented, don't tell anybody. So Joe, we won't. He's multitasking, occasionally engaging and working on a project elsewhere. So Joe, yeah, we won't tell anybody. It's our secret. But to me, I was just having a look at it. That's exactly the point. It's all of a sudden we're now interacting. He's heard us come back to him. He probably needs to now pretend he's doing his real job. And
where's Joe? I'd like to know where is Joe?
We'll ask him. Hopefully Joe will say something. He might have already said it. If not, you can say it again. Oh, there he is. He's in the bush. Murray River, New South Wales, Victoria border, Murray Down. So he's a local to us.
Oh, well, that's perfect. And that's the great thing about having a live, is that now we know a little bit about Joe.
Yep.
You know, and it's great that he can come on and be part of the conversation.
And it's not just us talking at Joe for half an hour. It's Joe.
No.
So
that's it. Thanks, Joe.
That's what I say at the start of each of these shows. You know, look, it takes a little bit of effort for us, as you know, to kind of come on and talk, and you put yourself out there. And so for us, you know, having people drop comments in makes it great. It actually makes it more enjoyable for us too, because we're engaging with people live. So, I'll just have a look my notes and things that I wrote down to topics to talk about. So it's a little bit of planning here. I was just thinking about influencer marketing in that sense of interactions, because I guess in my mind that's part of that extension, that's that trend, and we're sort of almost forming a bit of a thesis here around next year's social media. But that's the thing about influencers, is that people do engage with their influencers, they get great buy-in. So do you think we're going to see more influencer marketing, or is it likely to be curtailed by people needing to kind of out themselves as being paid influencers next year?
Well, it's definitely an interesting topic, because I saw recently that I think the Australian government had actually made a decision to not use influencers in their marketing, because they felt there wasn't that real clear measurement of success on the money that they were investing. And I think it's an interesting call, because I personally believe that influencer marketing is something that is going to be growing. And the reason I say that is because Generation Z, which are the generation, I've got 3 Generation Zers living in my home. They're basically from 1997 to 2012. That's when they were born. They really listen to influencers. There's stats everywhere saying how they will make purchasing decisions based on what influencers will say. And they're not silly enough that they think, oh, well, they're just saying it because they love the product. They understand that they're pushing a product because of a business relationship, but they do react and they do buy because of influencers. And in the past, we've seen the celebrity influencer. So we've seen, you know, the Kylie Jenners and the Kardashians, as, you know, just to name a few who are very, you know, in the space. But I think that our new celebrities are going to be those influencers who might not have such a massive, huge following that some of these big celebrity influencers have. They'll be the ones who have the smaller but really committed community of people, and they will become the celebrities to those people. I mean, I saw something recently. We had a makeup artist who came to the Gold Coast, and there were people camped out overnight at the shopping centre to see this person in real life, and they were literally treated like a celebrity. So to say that influencer marketing is going to peter off or not be used, I think that's the wrong call. Yeah. What's important is, how do we measure the success of an influencer's campaign? Because if, like you said, it's, how do we know that the people that they have are following them are actually legitimate followers? I mean, I've heard of people buying followers so that they appear to have that high level of engagement or high level of followers, when really they don't have the engagement that's required to have a successful campaign.
So, I mean, I think that's a good tip going into next year is, to look at influencer marketing, but more at a micro level. So find the undervalued influencers, and maybe people who don't even know that they're an influencer yet. But I mean, you touched on it here, and I don't really have an answer for it, and maybe you don't either. But I mean, but measuring the success of an influencer campaign, I mean, yes, if you get Kim Kardashian, you can probably see the spike in your sales, or the drop in the stock price of Snapchat. But if you haven't got that kind of volume, and how would you recommend people track the performance of an influencer?
Well, I think this is where there are tools out there, but I think there needs to be a better development of some tools. And even I think something that potentially could be down the track, it would be great to have the platforms actually have some way to be able to engage influencer marketing within the platforms in some way for us to be able to measure that, to start, at the moment you're starting to see on places like Instagram where they have a place to say this is this is a sponsored kind of endorsement. I think there needs to be more of that within the platforms. But I think
I've heard rumors that Facebook are looking to bake some form of influencer outreach into their ad platform.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I kind of feel like, it's a total speculative bet for 2019, but if in Ad Manager you could click your way along and actually start to find influencers that mirrored your audience, so you create your audience, and then you do all your selection. Here's my age and my gender and my device, and then here's a whole bunch of influencers you could reach. Exactly how it works, I don't know, but these things tend to get released to kind of premium, agencies through Facebook. They do a couple of tests for these things, and then it goes into alpha and then beta, and then eventually we all get to access it. But I think if we could start to see influencer marketing tracked in Ad Manager, that would be an absolute game changer.
I think that would be something that would be really good. And what could also be something down the track, whether the actual influencers could get a percentage of every sale that they actually drive.
So the case study that I'll have to find the link exactly. And apologies to Nick and Rena behind the scenes who'll be going, we didn't know this link was going to come, Jared. So good luck finding it. But it's around Koala Mattresses. So Koala Mattresses they're a real disruptive mattress company. So all around the world, there's mattresses in a box companies, and Koala, like the lovable creature that lives only in Australia, they started their influencer marketing, and they went for what you predicted, the smaller level of influencer, and they did the whole thing using voucher codes. And that way, awesome. You basically find the influencer. So you see someone on Instagram, and they're all doing the jump on the mattress trick. You can use their code, get 10% off, and then because you use their code, they know exactly who to credit back to, give the commission back to. So as somebody who I used to work in affiliate marketing back when it wasn't all professional companies, everyone could kind of have a go at it.
Yeah.
I kind of get a sense that with influencer marketing, there may be a tracking element around codes, and we may find the rise of the affiliate networks that used to be quite powerful marketing tools come back and find a space in the influencer marketing realm. I don't know who's going to lead it, but I'd love to see it, because I know some companies are doing it. Even Virgin Airlines, I'll keep using Australian examples, but I guess when you live in the country, you use these examples. But Virgin Airlines is running an influencer campaign at the moment. It's literally open to everybody. You put the right hashtags in it, and if they choose you, you might win a prize. So it's kind of it's like a competition, but I guess there's another way to track the results. So probably next year we're going to see more companies attempt to create trackable influencer marketing, and then importantly, not just trackable, but also I guess to the micro influencers or the smaller. So they're not doing these big brand deals; they're actually attracting smaller people. So no, I think that's really good. And as you said, with the rise of generation, what are we up to? Z.
Z.
What comes after Z? I don't even know.
Generation Naught. I don't know. I think there is a name for them after 2012, but yeah, they're probably too little right now to really have much of an impact.
Yeah, exactly. So conscious of time, and I think we've probably got time for one more topic, but I think chatbots and messaging is probably, if we can even cover both of those. Where do you think we're going to be next year with chatbots around, particularly around Facebook?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's already 100,000 chatbots in Facebook already. So, there's not a shortage of them. I think you're going to see more and more of businesses bringing chatbots on board. I mean, I did a bit of a dabble with chatbots with my recent social media marketing summit in Sydney, and I had one of my speakers, Ming Johansson, who's in one of the chatbot experts. That's a bit of a mouthful. Yeah. She created a chatbot for the event. Wow. And so what that did is, instead of having an app, which is just another thing to add onto your phone, that when you would come to the event page, the chatbot would pop up, and then it would start having a conversation with somebody around the content, around the speakers, around the frequently asked questions, things like that. So it just made it very easy for somebody to be able to understand what was happening at the event. And I think you're going to see it more and more and more as businesses understand the different ways that we can use chatbots. And with everyone sort of, the uptake of messaging apps is massive, and they reckon like 80% of smartphone users will be using some type of messaging app. To tie those two things together, I think it's going to be very powerful for businesses, as long as they do it in a good way. Because, there's that way to where they just sort of talk at people and it becomes very robotic. The more that they could have a fluid conversation with, get the chatbot to be fluid in its conversation, the more powerful it's going to be. And I've heard that they're using script writers in Hollywood to actually craft conversation trees so that the actual conversation feels very natural, not sort of that automated kind of feel. So I think we're going to see it grow, and we'll actually probably see, because we're over-apped. I mean, we've got app fatigue. We've got so many apps on our phones that we hardly ever use. I think you're going to see more people using chatbots to be able to do what I guess we might have used apps for in the past.
Yeah, I would say, to add to what your prediction is next year, is I think we're going to see a consolidation of the chat platforms, in so much as at the moment you might have a customer service chat window and there may be chatbots plugged into that. I think the ability for companies to introduce their own chat technology is going to diminish. And the reason I say that is to back up what you said. One, I've already got a lot of chat apps. I don't need another one. So, even if it's kind of like a live person or an intercom chat, it's not another app, it's another platform. And the other problem with that is, well, I guess the advantage that someone like Facebook or WhatsApp have is, if you can engage someone on a Facebook Messenger chat on your website and they leave your website, you can continue that conversation. So you can be booking a hotel and go, oh, maybe I'll do it later. You leave, you go, say, maybe get the bus back home and you've been looking at work. You hop on the bus, your phone boots up. That conversation can continue on your mobile phone because you're still in Messenger. So I feel like next year, I think people are going to start recognizing that a messenger chat is a form of opt-in. It's another platform for engagement. And so the platforms that currently exist with their own chat technology and sort of marketing solutions will start to lose their chat technology and kind of bake a layer over the top of Facebook chat and WhatsApp chat. And that will be the way we sort of interact. That might take a couple of years to happen. Who knows? But I feel like that's the place we're moving. And as a marketer, that's great. That means I get to take that conversation, not just on my website. I can sort of kind of follow you anywhere. back to Facebook's anywhere. I've fallen for my own trap, haven't I?
But this is where we as marketers have to be careful, because if we take and abuse these kind of technologies and platforms, then all it does is make our audience gun shy. and then they don't want to engage. So we have, as marketers, a really big responsibility to make sure that when we are putting these things into play, that we're thinking about the customer experience, that we're thinking about how our customers are going to engage and not be selfish, because in the end of the day, we shoot ourselves in the foot, like we did with email marketing. You know, we started spamming people and doing all these things which people didn't like, which then went from 90% open rates down to, you know, you're lucky if you get 20, 30% open rate. Yeah. So we need to be responsible that when we do anything, we think about the long-term gain and not the short-term win.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. All right. So the last tip isn't a tip. It's a call to action. If something new comes out and it's great, please don't abuse it so we all get to continue playing with it.
That's right.
You're brilliant. Well, look, I could speak to you for hours because we've got so much we could cover here, but we do have to come to an end. So, look, if people who are listening and watching want to contact you or find more pearls of wisdom from you, what's the best place to track you down?
Well, I always like having conversations in LinkedIn because that's a platform that I use because I'm very business focused. It's a platform that I tend to engage a lot in. So if you go to Marae Ryan, so just my name, which I'm sure is in somewhere to do with where the Facebook Live is, just Marae Ryan on LinkedIn and connect. And if you have any questions or want to have a chat, please don't hesitate to message me. Otherwise, through my website, Social Media Marketing Institute, which is www.smminstitute.com.au.
And that's going up in the chat now. So if you're watching it live, you can go there. If you're watching it afterwards, it'll still be in the chat. So it's all there. So thank you so much for taking the time out today to chat to me and chat to everyone who's watching the video. It's absolutely fascinating stuff. And like I said, I think we're definitely going to get you back again next year. Maybe we'll get to relive some of our predictions and find out how wrong we were.
That's right. That's the fun thing with predictions.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Remember to click the little bell icon and subscribe so that you know when our shows are going live. We love it when you're online asking questions and chatting. But that's it for another show. Thank you so much for joining us, Marae, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thank you.